Let's warm up together. Just do what I do, follow along. Kneel on your left knee, tuck your tail, and let's circle the hip around. Keep that left glute squeezed to open up the front of your hip, and then let's change directions. Switch sides. Squeeze the left glute, tuck the tail, and circle that hip. Try to circle your hips independently of your shoulders. Also open up your lower back, change directions. Let's go ahead and switch back to the left knee, tuck that tail, squeeze the glute, and now let's bounce in a left groin stretch. Keep that left glute squeezed, push the hip forward. Let's just hang out in it. Take some deep breaths here. And let's go ahead and switch sides, kneeling on the right knee now, tuck the tail, squeeze the glute, push the right hip forward, and now let's bounce in that groin stretch. And let's take a few deep breaths here in through the nose, exhale to relax and release tension. Now let's go ahead and switch into the spider stretch, Squeeze that left glute, bounce that left hip. Imagine you're trying to lengthen your left leg out through the bottom of your left heel. And now we're going to do the rotations. Rotate your shoulders to the right. Let's do 5 of them. 2, 3, stack those shoulders. 4, 5. Good stuff. All right, now we're going to turn the other direction. Pull the bowstring for 2. Stack those shoulders. 3. Keep that left glute squeezed. 4. And 5. And let's go right leg back. Left leg forward. Spider on the other side. Squeeze that right glute. Bounce the hip. Straighten that right leg out through the bottom of your right heel. And then let's do 5 rotations, turning the shoulders to the left. For 3, 4, 5. Now we're going to pull the bowstring and rotate the shoulders to the right, away from that front leg. For 2, keep that right hip pointed down at the ground. 2 more. Turn those shoulders. Beautiful. Now let's go into a down dog. And notice how I keep my lower back flat and extended. And then let's just pedal those knees back to open up the hamstrings and calves. And then let's reach with your left hand for the back of your right leg. And then reach with your right hand for the back of your left leg. Now, if you're fairly mobile, reach for the back of the heel or the back of the ankle. But if you're not, you could just reach for the back of your knee. If you can't touch anything, just reach and try to touch something so we can at least get some rotation through the shoulders. We're trying to disassociate the shoulders from the hips here. Now let's get into a middle split and arch the back and bounce the chest towards the floor. You'll see here, look, I have a really extended or arched back. I'm bouncing my solar plexus to the floor, pushing those hips back. And now let's rotate and reach and drop that left shoulder down to the ground. So we're reaching for the right leg and I'm bouncing into this really great lat stretch here. And then we'll go to the other side, turn the right shoulder down, bounce the right shoulder towards the ground, right underneath your hips. All right, let's go ahead and stand and do some rotations, keeping your heels planted into the ground. Turning the shoulders and hips, letting those arms swing freely. Now I'm letting my heel come off the ground, the heel that I'm turning away from, so that we can do a little more rotation here. We can also get the hips moving into internal rotation and extension. And now let's do the swaying palm. Pushing the hip out and moving the shoulders the opposite direction. Feeling a nice dynamic stretch, a big opening through the obliques. Now let's do our Tai Chi bouncing series. Gently push the knees back, let the head hang loose, and just nice gentle bounces, not forcing anything. Now freeze the hips and just rotate at the base of the spine. Let the face be relaxed, shoulders relaxed, arms relaxed. And now we're going to do the folded swaying palm. So I'm just pushing my hips out to one side and letting my torso flex laterally, my spine flex laterally to just swing my shoulders the other direction. Notice how loose my arms are. If you could see my face right now, you would see it's very relaxed. And let's go ahead and stand. So we're going to do our leg swings first. Right leg swings front to back. Arms move contralaterally the same way that you run and walk. Pelvis stays in neutral. Now let's do the diagonal swing with the right leg. So the right leg is swinging to, let's call it 11 and 4. Feeling a stretch in your groin and the outside of your hip. Arms still swinging contralaterally. Working our balance a little bit here too. Ooh, I almost lost it right there. All right, now let's go left leg swing front to back. Keep the pelvis still. A little core engagement here is going to keep your pelvis still and stop the lower back from arching and flexing. Lower back is long and straight throughout this leg swing series. Now we're going to do the diagonal left leg swing. So now we're swinging, let's call it like 1 and 7 o'clock. Feeling that stretch in the groin and the outside of the hip. Keeping the pelvis still. And now let's do the internal external rotation jiggle. So we're just moving the right hip into internal and external rotation, shaking it out, lift the knee a little higher if you can. Move it out to the side. I have to hold my hands in this way to balance and coordinate this. There's nothing scientific about it. Just have some fun with this. Now let's lift the left knee, shake it out. Just try to be relaxed. Most people can figure this out if they actually try less hard. You just want to be loose. Shake that leg out in internal and external rotation. Jiggle that leg around. This is really good for hip capsule health. All right, shake the legs out a little bit. Let's do a little easy lateral gait, also known as a skater. Watch here, I'm just loading the hip, feeling that glute, and then going to the other side and decelerating. Just practice landing and taking off. But I want you to feel this in the glute. Sit this force back into the glute to create some like potential energy, like if you coiled a spring and then let it go. But that spring is your hip. Swing the arms with it to help with the balance and to also help with the deceleration and then the acceleration. All right, now let's do some step back lunges here. Still finding that glute, exact same thing. If you can add some shoulder rotations towards the leg that's forward, let's do it. This is actually one of the greatest bang for your buck movements you can do for just overall movement competency, posture, hip, spinal health. And let's go back to that lateral gait. That skater, let's just be a little more dynamic now if you can. Try to cover a little more distance, but we're not trying to jump as far as we can. This is still a warm-up. We're just getting loose, and we're finding the glute. Finding the glute. Practicing using the ankles, knees, and hips as shock absorbers. Back to that step back lunge. Let's see if we can coordinate the shoulder rotation. Hips remain facing straight ahead, finding that glute. Rotating the shoulders independently of the hips. Eyes stay forward, just rotating around the spine. That's all we're doing. Ooh, lost it there for a second. All right, we're back to it. And that's how I would warm up for this workout.